Something tells me that whenever Vin Diesel decides to say anything, things like this happen. And by this, I of course mean reveal information about a Marvel movie he may be part of that sounds legit because it makes logical sense but hasn't been confirmed yet regardless of that fact. So let's talk about it. Readers, when it comes to Marvel Studios, you gotta take a lot of the things you hear about the projects coming from them with a grain of salt. Some things you hear might have some sense of truth to them, like Marvel Studios courting Sam Raimi to take over as director of Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, while others are nothing but fabricated rumors that are pushed by the agenda of a fairly poorly planned He-Man Woman Haters Club that are mostly mad that Brie Larson won't consent to sitting on their faces. Don't ask me how I know that they're all into that. I just do. Basically, when it comes to rumors and hearsay surrounding Marvel Studios, you don't really pay any nevermind to whatever it is that you're hearing about unless it comes from the mouth of either Kevin Feige or someone who is or was recently attached to a project by them. So, Tom Holland. And sometimes Mark Ruffalo, man, they have some very loose lips. See, if I say don't take that out of context, you're still gonna do it, so why even bother? The culprit this time, however, is none other than the Fast and the Furious family man himself, Vin Diesel, who, while on a press junket promoting Bloodshot for Sony and Valiant Comics, let it slip that the next time we'll see members of the Guardians of the Galaxy before James Gunn's third and final installment with the current roster will be in Taika Waititi's Thor, Love and Thunder. In the interview, Vin said the following, and I quote, "I am waiting and excited for my friend James Gunn to knock this next one out of the park. He took the Suicide Squad, so he's about to embark on it. Thor will also, the director talked to me about how Thor will incorporate some of the Guardians of the Galaxy. That'll be very interesting. Nobody knows. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything." End quote. And if the phrasing looked weird to you when you were reading along, it's because it was transcribed word for word with what he said during the interview, which there is footage of, that I'm about to play right now.
Thor will also, the director talked to me about how Thor will incorporate some of the Guardians of the Galaxy, which would be very interesting. Nobody knows, but maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
Now, doesn't that sound better than just accepting the word of a comic skater saying that Geralt of Rivia is going to play the best mutant there is at what they do in a Captain Marvel movie? No, I'm not getting off this horse because I need these degenerates to know that nobody likes them. Now, this isn't the first time I reported on something Vin Diesel said about his involvement in the MCU outside of the Guardians franchise proper. And it's like I said earlier on, because he was the first to break the news that the Guardians of the Galaxy would be involved in Infinity War, despite everyone and they mama and them knowing that that was already going to happen, I feel more inclined to believe what he said about the Guardians being in Thor, Love and Thunder. We also have to take into consideration that we don't know the extent Taika Waititi talked to Vin Diesel about their involvement in Love and Thunder. We don't know if that means the entire cast will be involved. We don't know if that means only a portion of the cast will be involved. Hell, we don't even know if Waititi's incorporation is even a visual. For all we know, it could just be a verbal reference. I mean, it will be a bit of a dick move to only do that, but it's still a possibility we have to take into consideration. But let's for a moment assume that the first two I mentioned are in fact what's going to happen with the Guardians' involvement in Love and Thunder. Let's for a moment assume that either the entire roster or 2 or 3 characters from the current iteration of Guardians of the Galaxy will in fact show up in the 4th Thor movie. With Jane Foster returning, Valkyrie getting a more prominent role than the one she had in Ragnarok, and, Chris Hemsworth. Would the Guardians of the Galaxy joining Thor Love and Thunder overcrowd the movie, as opposed to how Endgame initially planted the idea of Thor being in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3? Personally, if what Vin Diesel said about Thor Love and Thunder is true, I don't think the Guardians joining the Thor ensemble would hurt it. If anything, it'll help confirm a lot of the other news tidbits that we've heard about both franchises recently. More specifically, the recent reports about James Gunn's revised Guardians of the Galaxy script, since it was pushed from Phase 4 to Phase 5 after they had to initially delay it, due to Marvel Studios not being able to find a replacement for Gunn back when they originally had him fired. Remember that video I made regarding the state of the script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and why it was reported that they only recently finished it despite it being finished years ago? Well, while we know that things had to be adjusted in order for the initial Phase 4 script to fit Phase 5, the idea of the Guardians' next appearance being in Thor Love and Thunder not only isn't that far-fetched considering how Endgame ended, but might actually play into what James Gunn has planned for the current team's final adventure together now that it's a Phase 5 film. There's also the fact that, thanks to the franchise's tonal shift upon taking over as its director, the Guardians under the helm of Taika Waititi to hold us over until Gunn's Volume 3 is ready is pretty much a win-win for people who appreciated his humor on Ragnarok. And that's even more likely to be the case now that Waititi is sitting on an Oscar win. Honestly, if this ends up being the case, not only would I be on board considering the current conditions, but it would honestly be the best outcome. Not only is this a way for those of us who were disappointed that we weren't going to see the Guardians of the Galaxy during Phase 4 actually get our wishes granted to a certain capacity, but with the way Volume 3 is currently shaping up to fit Phase 5 as opposed to how it was originally shaped to fit Phase 4, there's definitely a possibility that now that there's more time, them participating in Love and Thunder is part of Gunn's plan to send the current iteration of the team off in a style that they deserve. Now all that's left is to see what context Vin Diesel's words are actually going to come to fruition. My money's on the verbal reference. Anyway, readers, your homework assignment for the day. Write in the comment section below whether or not you'd want to see the Guardians of the Galaxy show up in Thor Love and Thunder. Or if you feel like sharing with the rest of the class, which 3 members you'd want to see in the movie if only a handful were allowed to show up. Regardless of which question you answered, I'd love to know your thoughts. If you want to help financially support the channel, you can join my Patreon by clicking the card at the end of the video or in the link in the description down below, where you can also find a link to my merchandise store. Or if you prefer to give a one-time donation, you can find links to my PayPal and my Ko-fi account in the description box as well. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, because I post new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and every other Friday. But until then, this is Readus 101. Class dismissed.